All right, you're recording.
We did have 4 people not show up yet. I'm watching the phones to make sure. We really don't want to ship 4 people's worth of stuff back. But anyways.
Somebody. Oh, here comes somebody. She's like happy to see us. She's been wandering around, I think.
Yeah. I kind of don't know about. I mean, maybe for the demo we could do live on now.
Are we able to get this recording too?
You can. I can send it to you. I usually post them on YouTube, but I can send you direct.
Oh, okay, cool.
I watch you on YouTube like for hours every day.
Oh, thank you.
I do too. When I can't sleep at 2 in the morning, I go, I bet they've got videos on.
When we first started doing it, I was like, why would someone watch me do painting?
Oh my gosh, it's so fun. I love
But
it.
now
I feel like I
hoping
said,
you'd
I feel like I know you. It's like you keep me
Oh, I
comfortable.
know.
All alone.
I hated leaving the boys at home, but
They're cute.
flying them would have been.
So do you have someone that comes in and stays with them, or
Here with Amanda, my assistant.
so
Amanda
she
Bang.
stays there at the house?
She's local, so I just sent them.
Local.
Well, she just moved like an hour.
was local.
Hi! We waited! I'm so sorry.
How was it?
Well, you found it.
No worries. Welcome. It's not a big deal.
You're here?
So I'm
It
just,
hasn't even started yet.
yep, we waited, no stress. Set your bags down. Nice to meet you, Anka. I sent you an email again to make sure. Alrighty. I know we need that on, but cheese and crackers is hot under the light.
Yeah. They're really red.
I can
I
burn
know, I
under
saw-
moonlight.
Turn it off.
I saw you getting pink. I'm like, oh, she's going to be burnt.
Am I tanning under this?
It looks like.
Here.
Welcome, Anka.
It's gonna
So,
record the demo for you guys that we're gonna do. We're at the Odyssey.
just gonna record the demo part and then. So, I'm going to do a geode similar to this one. It didn't do what I thought it would on the back, so I'm gonna try again. And a lot of times with resin, it's try, fail, also still try. So that's what we're gonna do. So I'm pretty sure that one of the key ingredients is the base tint, and it doesn't take a lot. So this is all that I use. And that may even be too much. I just did a little swirl of it.
Oh, I've been using way too much.
So if you find that your cells kind of get cloudy, this one I did use too much. The cells kind of gotten cloudy and lost instead of like rigid and pretty. That's from using too much of the base tint. I call them cauliflower cells because they kind of look like cauliflower heads when you use too much. And I'll do a demo later today and show you what happens if you use too much. But to make it an opaque color, I always add some white from another brand. Today I'm going to use Just Resin's Titanium White. Available on my website, artistblack.com.
What's up, Sandy?
Is that for effect or for color?
Adding the titanium white is for color. Adding the base tint is for effect.
Hi from France. What's up?
So just resin titanium makes it opaque.
Yes.
Okay.
The base tint inherently is a little bit translucent.
Okay.
And it's also a little bit of a grayer white, but I want a brighter white, and the titanium is a bright white.
So do you ever just use the white base coat, or do you always put something else in it?
I used to only use the base tint to get the big cells, but I have since learned that the line where it's too much base tint versus not enough is very thin. And if you use too much, there's no going back. Your cells are going to blob out and get hazy. So in order to avoid that, I just add some regular white, so I get a bright opaque white also that will do the cells.
Okay.
And so you can add the base tints, no matter what color the base tint is, to any color and make that a selling agent.
Okay. So you just leave this open while you're working? It doesn't
It's not gonna dry out,
Dry out,
during
okay.
the time I'm
Okay.
gonna use it.
Okay.
And since we're gonna be using it for the class, I just
Okay.
left it open.
Okay.
And also I wanna do a demo where I show what too much will do.
Okay.
But if I were working at home, I would have closed it. Just not
From Israel. From New
because I'm
Zealand.
worried about it drying out, but because I don't want to accidentally get resin in it. So this color's dark turquoise, is one of my all-time favorite colors.
Wow, that's like a little tiny.
I thought it was black. I did too. That's a dark blue?
It is, but so this is what color it will be.
So that's this. Oh, here.
No, this is
That's the color right there.
the color.
That's what we were looking for.
Yeah, it is.
Pretty.
I just swiped it right here.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. I think I'm gonna do.
So the amount of paste you want to put in is typically 10%. I usually overload it. I usually overload it just slightly if I'm using a powder because powders tend to get foggy in resin. Do I have a 007 open? Will you give me that?
Is that 007?
It is. Be careful when you open these because it'll get everywhere.
We should typically put the powder in the bottom first,
First, yeah.
right? Okay.
I'm really bad about that.
But
I
you-
should do that.
You tell us on your videos to
Boston.
put it first.
Boston.
It's
I've
one of
heard
those
you.
do as I say things.
Not as I do.
Because I like to put the resin first so I know how much I'm going to use per color. But then once you start to mix up a powder, it tends to get everywhere if it's not under the resin. The gold and that aluminum that I was telling you about, particularly, I overload the colors because that's when you get those little flecks that float up. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
That looks like little stars almost.
Yeah.
And that's from overloading it, I believe. So,
And you're trying to get that.
yeah. So I'm going to use a very limited color palette, these. I feel like with geodes
Clear.
and swiping, it's just more elegant the simpler the color palette. But for this class, you can use as many colors as you like. I typically recommend staying under 4. My regular color equation is a flat color, a metallic color, some kind of silver or gold or rose gold, bronze, and then a black or a white. That's it. Because you have to consider all of the secondary colors that all of those colors are going to make because you're going to manipulate them next to each other. So
Hello from Dallas.
So do you use
Fernando, we're from
alcohol
Dallas.
ink in your resin anymore, or are you just using
I
resin
typically
tint now?
I typically
Vegas
don't
right now.
because I have since learned how radically fast they will fade. Alcohol inks are not light fast, and so they'll fade in the resin. And I don't want to sell something to someone and then 3 months later then be like, why did my painting disappear? It used to be a pretty color and now it's not. So
Marianne, what's up?
now I only use light fast colors, like the Color Obsession tints, which I didn't bring because they are super heavy. So now I'm gonna add my color. I think that the reason why I get that effect that I've been doing lately, that wing scale looking deal, is a combination of clear, a transparent or a translucent color, and then the white combination of the just resin and the base tint. That white that I used on this one was Color Obsession and the base tint.
What's up, Sergio?
So that might have been the issue. I may have added too much heat,
don't know if I'm watching your camera.
and I may have tilted it. So I'm not sure where I went wrong on that one, but I'm going to rectify it on this one. So I just run the color through.
So you didn't grease the pan first?
I did not. And on geodes, I don't grease the pan because I want the colors to stay where I put them. Greasing the pan is for
Okay.
helping the colors to move. And for geodes, I want them to not move.
Okay.
And these surfaces with these right angles, like our boards and our geodes, only will hold resin up to an 1/8 inch or a little bit more. So I have to be very particular about how much resin I put on it, because once that surface tension
Starts running
breaks,
off.
it's gonna go.
Okay.
So I want to be very cautious of how much resin is on the piece in general.
Okay.
And also, like with alcohol inks, I think putting a color on top of it will push the white down through the other colors, making that feather look, which I did not do on that one. So,
Natasha from Just Resin's watching.
Natasha, I'm using your titanium. I think it's a secret ingredient to my new technique. So, I'm going to do a swipe on this because I think it makes it look more natural geode-esque because of the, like, that ombre line look going through. I don't add a lot of heat when I use the base tints, and I don't add a lot of heat when I do geodes, because for the base tints, the thinner your resin is, the more likely it is that your cells aren't going to be rigid. They're going to kind of blob away.
Natasha, you just did. You
She
just
did
say
what?
wave back. She goes, how do I wave back?
Oh. Also, your base tints need to not be on the top of the other colors. That you won't get any kind of anything from it. It won't make cells if the base tint is on top.
Nancy from Florida.
So that's why I do this dip swipe.
I was
'cause
just gonna ask, so
need to
you
start
you
with a
tip,
color.
you tip it with resin always, or just for this?
She wants to.
Just different effects.
Really, only when I do a swipe that has no solid color starting point.
From Bulgaria.
Hey, Bulgaria.
Oh my god, that is gorgeous.
Colors look great.
Oh
Some of you may have thought I was crazy when I was applying those colors.
no. Oh, that is gorgeous.
Just two colors?
It's just the white and the dark turquoise and the clear.
Now, do you?
I have to hold my breath when I do that.
Now, do you dip it in the other color just because it gives you a
Dip
starting
swipe.
point?
Yeah.
I
Or-
need the top of the color to be not white. And if I would have just laid
It on top of the
it on top, it would have, part of it would have been in white because I had white all through it. But since I needed a color on top, that's why I started with color on it. Because if the white's on top, it's just going to make your piece cloudy.
This part right here is fabulous. Oh my gosh.
Thank you.
Love
But
it.
see how that looks more natural instead of color.
Yeah. That is gorgeous. That
Kind of
is.
why I stepped away from wanting to learn how to do geodes, because it didn't look real natural.
Didn't look
Right.
natural. People are too literal with the
Being
line.
very
Yes.
obsessive about line structure, and I'm like, that's not really what a geode really looks like if you really look at a slice.
That is
Yeah.
It looks more like,
Yes.
Absolutely. love
Beautiful.
so that's why I was like, okay, we got this. And so that's why we started this.
So if you were going to put stones around the center, you would do that first, right?
I would take
Okay.
a
And
hot
then they
glue gun
kind
and
of,
a
I love
glass
that kind
and
of
just
lead in there.
Mhm.
Oh, do you
Same.
mean like
This
in
is
the
on.
open part?
Yeah.
No, around the
Or
edge.
on the
Resin
She,
art
yeah,
will-
no,
I did
on
in
the-
this inside, and you
Right,
can
on
put some
that
on the
other
outside
one.
as well.
Okay.
That's why there's so many people from different
Areas.
areas.
So also, I make sure I do the swipe first. That way, these other colors don't kind of bleed into that. But if you wanted it to,
Then you can
you
swipe
can
again.
do another swipe. Yeah,
Okay.
there's no limit to your swipage.
I love your verbiage.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She has
We understand it.
I have an E language and E science.
Talks like me.
I kind of just make up things as I go along.
hello from Brisbane, Australia.
I love Brisbane.
You guys have to come back. Oh, we're gonna come back.
We'll be back.
Natasha,
You hear
it's up
that?
to you.
Thank you.
Paul says PPE.
So We are in a well-ventilated, large room.
Humongous room here.
We always recommend people to wear whatever kind of safety
Well, then-
gear.
Is that Calvin Klein? No,
There's a
that's
huge
Estee Lauder.
fan in the
Estee
back.
Lauder. Okay.
This building just keeps going. We are at the Naughty Artisan here in Las Vegas.
Definitely wear whatever kind of respiratory and preventative anything. I really wouldn't be an effective instructor if I had a mask on my face. So, now we have some gold in there. I think I'm going to add the white in these
Yeah, I was
open
gonna say, I was
areas.
hoping you were gonna
And then edge the outside in the dark turquoise.
put a white line, and the dark, and then blow it right.
Okay.
Now that you're not gonna sweat though, right? The white.
Probably not.
You see how that going into that white
Right.
gives it that natural kind of crazy look.
Because of the base tint being in this white, it's going to try to bleed into the other colors anyways. It's going to incorporate itself.
Natasha said yes, we are working on it for us to come back to Australia. Hello from Victoria, Australia. Looks amazing balls. Thanks, Lisa.
So after this piece is done, I'm also going to do a round for you guys because I know that some of you guys are interested in doing ocean waves and like
Hi
lacing
from
type
Indonesia. Wow.
stuff. So I'll take care of that too. So we'll do that off camera. Sorry y'all, join
Hi
a class.
from Ireland. What's up, Ireland?
So instead of just pouring all the resin to fill in this area, I'm just pushing it in. And that's another way I kind of make sure I don't use too much resin.
It keeps it from spreading into it. Just pushing it in and
It's kind of like that game with the quarters. You put so many quarters, it pushes over
Right?
the top.
Yeah.
So,
Hi from Canada. It looks amazing. Thank you.
So we've used about 5 ounces of resin
Hi from
to do
Sydney.
this size.
So, have you ever used the Stone Coat base tint and added color to it? Do you get the same kind of effect?
You do, just know that it's going to kind of pastel out whatever color you put in it.
Okay.
So if I were to add the white to this, it would make kind of this milky color here, which is fine. Just keep that in mind if that's something you want to. I would put the black base tint in this color if I were to add a base tint.
So if you didn't want to use the black, but have that color combination, what other color would you use? That's not black. Oh, that's
This
the
is the
teal, isn't it?
turquoise.
The turquoise. Never mind. Yeah. I just remember. If you wanted an edge on that, would you do it separate from the flat? In order to concentrate on the edge, like say you want 3 inches on the side.
If you wanted a 3-inch, like for the whole thing to be 3 inches,
Yeah, like kind of like this.
I would
Build a wider
form. I would probably just start with a thicker base than this one. I mean, that's what I would do instead of trying to build up 3 inches. Because
No.
getting a
When you just decide, how you paint the side with resin, do that separately?
yes,
Do the top first, flat
Yeah.
first, and then
Should
do
put
the
a
side.
layer
Yeah.
of clear down
We
just
do.
in the center.
And then
When this
tape
video's
it
over,
off.
you can go back and rewind it.
and we're gonna show you guys tomorrow
See
how we
the
finish the
steps.
sides too. We're gonna do all the sides with you
Put
guys.
a little layer about that thick of clear down
Sides
first,
of the geo.
not on the whole piece, and then put the colors
Well,
over
for the
that.
geodes, I would
Geodes,
just, I would just
yeah.
like take a gold paint pen and just
Right.
rim the edge. but we're gonna go over how to do the edges of those.
We're watching from Dallas, Texas. Some
I don't want any of you guys to leave this class having any questions. I want to make sure I answer everything for you guys.
We know how to get a hold of you.
Right?
She's going to be
Shoot me a
sorry
text.
we do.
Tasha said ATD will be joining us working out in Melbourne. That's definitely. Just got to figure out the deets.
Awesome. So see how this gold is flecking up?
Yeah.
That's, I'm pretty sure, from overloading it a bit. Of course. You guys can go any.
It's gonna blow on
The 007.
Oh, okay. Now I see what you're talking
See
about.
how, like,
it's coming to
now-
the surface.
That's spray paint.
Is that from the heat?
This
That's from spray paint.
Oh.
This one was 007.
Is that?
Which part was it? The gold on that one was spray paint.
And you said that was from putting an excessive amount of gold in with your resin.
I probably put twice what most people recommend.
Please do a workshop
hoping you were
on
gonna do a
resin
little
plus
more gold.
calligraphy.
Of course.
I will try to do that.
What's that other gold that you've left behind that you sometimes use?
Bright
That
gold.
Montana gold.
Oh, the Montana gold? Yeah.
She
So, is
knows
it
right
liquid?
No,
She's like, dang it.
Oh, Mayron.
Mayron, yeah. When I overload that, it seems like it gets real brassy looking. It doesn't look like gold anymore. Do you want to overload that one too?
I typically do. I'd have to check on that and make sure. You think I should do white and blow it into it? Is that what you're saying? Or just blow the aqua
I
into
know that
it?
gold look good on it. It's like I would keep that up and blow the gold into the white.
Yeah, it's still tackier too.
Better.
Oh, it's gonna be so beautiful.
Thank you. I'm excited about this piece for sure.
Yeah, me too.
Better watch it. She's gonna take it home.
Are you going to do jeans? Or both?
I'm
I want to do both.
Oh, it's in class?
You have the option of doing.
You can do one or the other.
Alright.
I love how you just let it work and you just manipulate it as it's working. And it kind of dictates what it's doing.
I think that's kind of a key to working with resin. If you try to force it to do what you want it to do, you're gonna waste resin. You're gonna get too frustrated and it's never gonna do what you want it to do. But if you put the color down and then take it from there and make it do what you want it to do, then I think it lends itself better because then it's already working towards that anyways.
Yeah.
So why would you try to stop running water instead of just go with it?
Yeah.
This is the one she did yesterday. She put spray paint on it.
Did you use the same colors today that you used yesterday?
No, I used emerald green from Color Obsession and a little bit of malachite from just resin yesterday.
She did it. That's like my favorite thing.
Blow.
I was gonna leave that. So that's going
Oh,
to be
I love how it's
amazing.
bleeding into that stone coat. That is so pretty.
All these little flecks of gold coming up. I love that.
Yeah, I do too. And I love the white here too in the turquoise. That's so pretty.
Tasha said Geoding is amazing and very realistic when compared to natural slice.
That's what you were going for. You have
Alright.
achieved.
Nailed it. All right. Now I got some more resin. And we'll have to say goodbye to Raw while we do this one.
Yes.
Tune into our channel and come to our next Geo class.
Yes, we have a geode class December 11th and 12th at our studio in Dallas, Texas. So if you guys would like to join that, you're more than welcome. Just go to artistofdepth.com and register there. We also sell all these amazing colors that we used here today. She used titanium white by Just Resin. She used, what'd you use?
Dark turquoise.
007 by Color Obsession. And dark turquoise by Color Obsession.
The next time I'm gonna put that, which one's just like that.
There you go. All right, we got to teach this class, you guys. We do all skill levels are welcome. You can come in and do a beginner. You can professional, whatever. We do it all. Do y'all ever get to Atlanta area? Unfortunately, we do not.
Well,
But if we get enough people and a space, we'll sure come. So with that said, you guys have an awesome day. Take it easy. Thank you, Raw, for letting us do this live. You guys are awesome. And we'll catch y'all later. Bye.
I said bye. I said bye. We all said bye. All right. Let's do ocean real quick.
Yes, please.
I'm gonna start this over.